Here are some beautiful wildflowers. Shots taken on the ridge southeast of the Arrowhead in the spring of 2024.
In this edition of the History of Arrowhead Springs, we have a new captain at the helm who builds a new hotel and successful era at Arrowhead. And the spring water is turned into monetary gold for the hotel.
Arrowhead Springs, California's ideal resort, tells the entire history of this historical place, including many rare photos. Mark Landis, the author, loves local history and does freelance writing for Inland Empire newspapers. You can get a copy of this book at landispublications.com.
After the fire of July 1895 that burnt down the hotel, there were several years of inactivity at the Springs, but things were about to change. As the saying goes, there's a new sheriff in town. And his name was Seth Marshall. Seth came to California from Ohio. He first settled in San Francisco before he made his way south to San Bernardino. Seth was a very successful businessman and was not new to the Arrowhead Springs in 1904 when he became active in its future. He was a director of the Arrowhead Hot Springs Company that was started in 1886. And as Mark Landis writes, that Seth was well acquainted with the numerous assets of Arrowhead Springs. In September of 1904, Seth Marshall and the Arrowhead Hot Springs Company purchased the late Governor Waterman's ranch. This dramatically increased the total size of the property. The Arrowhead Hot Springs Company signed on architect Arthur Benton to design the new, third hotel. Mr. Benton also worked on the Mission Inn of Riverside. The style he was best known for was called Mission Revival architecture. A $150,000 contract was awarded to a San Bernardino construction company to build Mr. Benton's design. After completion, it was nicknamed the Big Buff Castle. The Arrowhead Springs Phoenix has risen again. After a trip back east to buy $40,000 worth of furnishings for the new hotel, it was ready to open, which it did at the end of November 1905. It seems that the hotel was no longer pushing cures, but instead offered a resort for rest and relaxation. However, there were still all the different types of baths, including mud baths that were conducted outside in a cement pool area that is still there today. This wonderful black and white photo shows people walking up to the entrance to the Big Buff Castle. The photo here is dated to 1910. I find it interesting how some of the old photos show the arrowhead more pronounced than it really is. Altering photos must go back a long way. Seth Marshall was instrumental in the development of the Santa Fe Railroad kite-shaped train track project. A station for Arrowhead Springs was put in south of the hotel, and you could take a carriage from the station up to the springs. On the City of San Bernardino website, there is an article written by Mark Landis about the beginnings of mass transit in the valley. The San Bernardino Valley Traction Company started operations in the city and improved the way people could move around the valley. Trains had been coming into the valley from outside areas since 1883, when the first passenger train rolled into San Bernardino. The drawback of traveling up the hill to the facilities at the Arrowhead came to an end in 1907. In that year, the San Bernardino Valley Traction Company opened up a track to the hotel named the Arrowhead Hot Springs Line. This photo shows a car from the line. And this photo from the desert sun shows the depot at Arrowhead Springs.
Most everyone is familiar with Arrowhead Spring water. It is a local favorite here in the Inland Empire and has been for over 100 years. In 1909, some investors started a company called Arrowhead Springs and pulled the water from the stream in Coldwater Canyon, next to the hotel facilities. One problem was that they marketed it as if we're being bottled with the spring water from the hotel. In October of 1912, the hotel owners, aka the Arrowhead Hot Springs Company, started bottling water that was from the source springs at the hotel. And for several years there were two competing waters being sold to the consumers. Mark Landis writes in Arrowhead Springs, California's ideal resort, that sometime between 1913 and 1917 the two companies solved the problem. They merged, and from then on it was only sold under the Arrowhead Springs Company product line.
For the next many decades, the Arrowhead water bottlers used glass-lined tank cars to bring the spring water down the mountain to the valley, and then on to Los Angeles, where they had built bottling plants. On August 31, 1960, the last water train traveled through San Bernardino. The track was then pulled up, and from then on trucks did the work of getting the delicious cargo to the bottlers. The history of Arrowhead spring water is long and colorful. In the early days there were mergers with other water companies. Then it was bought out by outside companies. In time it was purchased by Nestle Waters of North America. In this map you can see the role it played and the territory Nestle used to sell it as part of their national marketing scheme. Nestle owned the Arrowhead label for many years. Eventually they sold it to another water mega company named Blue Triton. They are the current owners of our local Arrowhead waters.
This Arrowhead bottled water commercial is from 2016. At the end you can see that it says it was filmed in San Bernardino. I have seen a lot of Arrowhead advertisements over the years that used photos and videos not from the San Bernardino mountains.
There are men who spend their lives trying to leave a mark on the earth. Then, there are those who strive to leave no mark at all. It's why at Arrowhead, we work hard to keep Mother Nature in balance, so she can continue to nurture her children. It's what makes us Arrowhead.
Even though that advertisement claimed that Arrowhead worked to not leave a mark on the land, there were many people that disagreed. Environmentalists and local citizens have for years been pushing the Forest Service to stop water being taken from the springs around the Arrowhead. Finally, on July 26, 2024, the National Forest Service told Blue Triton to cease operations at Arrowhead and to dismantle and remove all of the pipes and other equipment from the mountain. It had come to light that old agreements had not been updated or even been watched over, and that for decades Nestle and Blue Triton had been making millions from the springs for almost nothing. The next video is from KTLI Channel 5 television station in Los Angeles announcing the Forest Service decision.
California regulators have the support of the federal government in ordering the company that bottles Arrowhead water to stop drawing water from the San Bernardino Mountains. Environmental activists have claimed the removal of that water is harming wildlife, particularly in Strawberry Creek. On Wednesday, the LA Times reported the U.S. Forest Service denied Blue Triton's permit to extract water from the mountain. The company released a statement to the Times saying environmentalists' claims are unsupported by facts.
For me personally, it is very ironic that while I am working on these Arrowhead Springs historical videos, that the Arrowhead water business that has been in operation well over 100 years has come to an end. Hopefully this will improve the natural health of the Arrowhead area and be a benefit to the Uhaviatum Serrano peoples who own the land. The early 1900s was a successful time at Arrowhead Springs Hotel, and it had caught the attention of the new Southern California industry, movies. Filming in Hollywoodland was becoming big business. It is possible that the first movie filming at Arrowhead Springs was a silent picture called Goodnight Nurse, starring Fatty Arbuckle and Buster Keaton. Notice the name used by the movie makers on the entrance. The No Hope Sanitarium. Luckily, these photos exist on a website called silentlocations.com. Silent film star Charlie Chaplin made his way to Arrowhead Springs. He is photographed with some children at the hotel. Also a pose with Seth Marshall and his wife Nancy. A great old photo of the Buff Castle sitting stately on the mountain overlooking San Bernardino. And a close-up of Arthur Benton's hotel.
In 1914, the world was catapulted into war. The United States avoided the conflict until 1918, when troops were sent to France to join the Allies. War did not come to Arrowhead Springs until after the armistice was signed and fighting had ceased. In 1920, the government took a 4-year lease of the hotel and facilities at Arrowhead Springs. It was converted into a rehab hospital, treating soldiers that had been injured in Europe. The government rehabbed soldiers until 1924, and on June 30 the hotel was turned back over to Seth Marshall. A $1 million sale price option had been on the table if the military wanted to purchase the land and hotel outright. Thankfully for the future of the hotel, they did not pick up that option.
Thank you for joining me in this episode. We leave Arrowhead Springs with a beautiful new hotel, plus an honorable discharge from the United States military for 4 years of patriotic service. In the next episode we see, not only the Hollywood crowd return to the mountain, but they buy the resort and move in.